you remember correctly, in previous Mystica versions, there were some kind of mismatch between the time space and the visual and the video output, between the visual editor and the video output. Sorry, the time space always respect the one-to-one resolution of the clips. So if you load, for example, a 4K clip on your timeline, and you have a project in HD, in your video output you will have like a cropped version of that image, of course, because again, you're using a bigger image in a smaller project. Then in previous version, when you went into the visual editor, let me show you here with these clips, automatically you had some kind of fit to fill in the visual editor. So the image was creating some kind of jumps between the time and space of the visual editor every time that you move from one interface to the other one. Now we have removed that behavior, and now it's much easier and comprehensible. So for now, for example, we have this image. This is a 4K image, as you can see, source 4K. I'm keeping here the result size as input, and as you can see, the visual editor is not making any fit to fill. It's basically respecting the one-to-one resolution, as you will see in the video output. So you don't have any kind of mismatch, any kind of jump between the two interfaces. Now, with the embedded framing here, I can just change from input to project, and automatically the clip will be adapted to your project. The project is, by the way, the new default value in the result size. So every time that you put any new clip, for example, I'm going to move to this. This is a Sony RAW. No, this is a ProRes, I think. Yeah, ProRes file for Sony. Automatically is doing a project result size. Okay. If we go to here, another red one is doing a project. Independently of the resolution of the clip, is automatically adapting all the shots to your projects. The moment that I'm going to come back to the shot. The moment that you select input, you see here the real resolution of the shot compared with the project. Now, this mode is pretty easy to understand, but the problem is, well, let's say that we want to, I don't know, to make an offset to select which parts I want to use in this shot. Instead of selecting project and just have my full image in my project, I just want to select one part of my shot. Well, we have in here, we don't know exactly which part of my image I have. So I have to move offset X, offset Y to see the content of my full image. Or instead of that, I can just enable this toggle over here, and this will show my full image. And if you may see, you have a small overlay here telling you the resolution of your project. So you have two overlays: the overlay for the source resolution and the overlay for the project. I'm going to use another shot where this can be more obvious, because that one is okay. So this is an example. This is the image, and we have, see, we have like the source resolution in here and the project. And if we enable it, we have like the source resolution and overlay as an overlay here, and then the project. So we can switch between two modes in a very simple way. So for example, if I want to say, okay, I want to bring this corner into the project canvas, I can just enable this mode, make an offset, and just select the part that I want, because at the whole time I just seeing the full image. So with just a simple toggle, I can just enable or disable the part that I want to control, which is great. At the end, this functionality was developed to remove that problem of jumps between the time space and the visual editor. But again, it's another example of how easy now it is to manage the media, to manage the offset, the scale, etc., independently of if the shot is bigger than the project or smaller. Okay, so in the whole time that we have been talking about these great features, probably you have seen the visual editor, the new visual editor. One of the new things that you will probably notice is that, well, there were like multiple tabs everywhere in previous Mystica versions, and now we don't have any tabs in here, only these ones. The visual editor looks much cleaner, looks much nicer. Everything has been organized in different areas. So we have I'm going to move from another shot just to have something different. This one, for example. Okay, so we have new areas here. We have one left toolbar in here, and one right toolbar in there. I'm going to start with this one, with the right one. This is basically like a toolbar for controlling the panels. In previous versions, we had, again, as I said, tabs everywhere. So it was a bit scary at the beginning, especially when you are a new user in Mistika, to see all those tabs, all that kind of text, all that kind of buttons. It looks like a overcomplicated software. And what we have done is just take all those tabs, all those panels, all those options, and organize them in a much better way. So we have now all the panels organized in here in vertical. So we have the Evolve tree, of course. We have the storyboard. We have the FX presets. This is the menu, the old bring menu that were like here in the middle of nowhere. Now we have just organizing here, changing some of the labels to make it more standard, using more standard names. The gangs, like now is a floating window that we can put anywhere, really. Display filters, all the scopes. I'm going to open all of them just to have them all open. The snapshot, keyframe graph, shapes panels, set color, the text sense, and the tracker. All the panels have been organized in just one space, and it's a very small space in the end. It's not like all those tabs that take quite a lot of attention from the important point. Our idea is to focus as much as possible on the canvas, on the image, because at the end is where you spend most of the time working. So we want to remove unnecessary elements from the interface to make it look much cleaner. And this is one of the first things that we did to simplify the timeline. Same thing, for example, here on the new shuttle and on the new play controls in here. We have removed the time space play controls. We only leave in here the visual editor because you don't need the time space in there. Because, well, right now if you are working in one monitor, you are working in the visual editor. If you are working in two monitors, you will have the time space shuttle in the time space interface, and you will have the visual editor shuttle in the visual editor's interface, which is much more consistent at the end. We have the same options that you had in the previous versions. We're not removing anything, okay? The fact that we are making things easier to understand, nicer and cleaner, doesn't mean that we are making putting any limits, really. In fact, there are small new features here, like the possibility of change between timecode and frames, for example, in the visual editor, or just go to +1 frame or +1 second or +1 minute. Some options, small options that can be useful in many situations. But at the end, it's a new way to organize things in a much cleaner way. Then we have this toolbar here on the left, which basically is the tools of the effects. It's for tools of the effects, to organize the tools of the effects. I'm going to show you one example with a VR stitch effect. I'm going to apply it to a non-VR media, but just to show you how this works. If I enable the VR stitch effect, which is an effect with multiple options here, we are moving or duplicating these options in this toolbar over here. So now all the effects with specific tools have a toolbar, a proper toolbar here with all those tools. So all of them can be managed from the same space. Instead of having all the tools in here, like in a probably more the organized way, now we have them organized in here. If we go, for example, to a Comp3D, and let's remove the VR stitch and load the Comp3D, we have the same situation. The controls for the Comp3D are in here as well, with a common part, which is the one related with the shapes. We will see that later with the color grade. But we have like a common part and then a specific part per effect to control the effect itself. We are not going to remove from now this the tools from here, because I know that many of you are used to use them in that way. And obviously this version, we are expecting your feedback. So at the end, this kind of changes, we need to evaluate with your feedback if they are good or not, or if they can be improved, etc. So for now, we will keep it duplicated. If you find those tools in here useful and with and offering you a quicker access. That's great. That's fantastic. If you think that at the end you're using more the tools in here, then we can reorganize that that part of the interface and try to find a better way. This is just an approach with the idea of having some consistency between all the effects and all the panels in Mistika right now. Okay,